Hi, my name is Abraham Great and welcome to this platform. Here you will learn tips that will help you to connect the dots. This dot has the proclivity to move you into action. It is working. Today I want to talk about very funny but interesting content that I thought about, and this is the dilemma of Africans in the diaspora. The dilemma of Africans in the diaspora. I said this as an important topic. Being an African who had lived in the diaspora for most part of my life, I've actually lived outside of my country of birth than I have lived in that country. I've lived more years, and there are many Nigerians, many Ivorians, many Ghanaians, many South Africans, Zimbabweans, many Kenyans, many Togolese, many Congolese, from outside who have traveled abroad, who live abroad. And you might be watching me now, you may be one of them. Here are a few dilemmas for people who travel outside of their country to live in another country. The number one is the dependency of your lineage. I title it that way. I don't know how else to put it. It appears that particularly if you've come from certain part of Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and into some part of even Southern Africa, it's not as extremely prevalent with the Northern Africa, but it is there in every part of Africa. There's once one person traveled to a Western world, it appears that the number of people that depend on you is almost like a lineage of people. And the people who are back home does not know how endemic this situation is. But I'll give you a story. There was a story of when I actually I think I was still in my early 20s by the time I traveled to Europe. And although it was England that I went, I got a job immediately. Just within 2 months of arriving in the UK, I got a job in Ireland. And whilst I traveled to Ireland to start my job, I'd barely even done 2 weeks of that job as a music director. I was having a side job because as a music director, I have all the time to my hand. And my employer at the time, my employer has all the businesses, which is a cleaning business. I had to clean window. That was my first winter. And I was cleaning window, and this friend of mine got my number and called me and asked me to send him 200 euro. Now, I think at that point, that was probably the week or the second week where euro actually was launched. Euro was launched in other part of Europe, and then Ireland was part of. So I was actually touching euro for the first time in my life around that time myself. And the person has actually calculated already into euros and told me exactly. I was so mad. I took the phone and I broke it on the floor. If you know me, I normally don't have tantrums. But I was in a dead snow or that I can bear at that time, cleaning windows in about 6th floor, climbing on a ladder, a job I've never done in my life before. And here comes someone, I've not even received my first salary, and someone is already calculating for me to send them 200 euros to solve a problem. That is a problem. Now, the problem is so endemic to the point that most of your friends, most of your families, most of your cousins, most of your nephews, most of your, sometimes your siblings, sometimes your parents want from you. The problem with this is that sometimes you actually lose some of those relationships because everybody now looks at one who has traveled abroad, and many people, in some cases, you have 5, 6, 7 people needing your help in a week. Sometimes it's very difficult because when you're making excuse to this, you have to make excuse to that. You do not even have enough to even pay your own bills yet where you are. You're still trying to integrate, you're still trying to settle down. And most part of Africa, people are saddled with this responsibility where even before they have their own seed, they have to distribute it. But I'll tell you the reason behind it in case you're watching in the diaspora. The really trouble behind it is that people understand the principle of conversion. So when people think about whatever you are, they convert how much the currency of that country is. So in my case, let's say it's the United Kingdom pounds. As at the time of this video, pounds is about, if I'm correct, about 750 naira to £1. Now, people think even if it's only 1,000 that he's earning, even if it's 1,000, they put that is 750,000 naira. They look at it where an average person in that country would, earn minimum wage in that country is 73, let's say $60, so 60 pounds. So by the time they look at it, by the time you see, you should be able to send me 50,000 naira or send me 100,000 naira or solve a problem of 200,000 for me if I tell you. But the real problem is that a man that is earning 1,000 pounds, many people will earn more than that. Some of us earn a lot more than that. But by the time you look at how much, some of us, the amount that it will take to maintain your own house alone, you don't even have £1 left to even save. In some cases, you have to do carryover. Use credit card to solve one problem. And most of your relatives who are abroad are like that. But we place unrealistic expectation on each other, and it makes it difficult. It prolongs their own time to settle, to put their life in order, to put their own family in order. And in some cases, and unfortunately, families have been disrupted where people are not talking to each other. In some families, some people get offended, got angry that, I asked you for money, you didn't send, when sometimes people have given enough people a no. That they don't even know what to say again. And sometimes the funny thing about it also is that sometimes people will call you. They have a need like in 2 days or 3 days. There's this thing that just makes people think that when they call you, you should be able to have it or know what to say. And sometimes people in the diaspora have gotten to a point, sometimes they're so shocked that you are not connected to their reality that they just, hibernate. They don't know what to say. It's because sometimes it's difficult. You are explaining yourself to one person, two person. Sometimes in a day, you are explaining yourself to like 5 people. After a while, you just get tired. And I know that people who are listening now, almost everybody from Africa who travel to Europe or America, who falls into that shoe, it is until they get there, they will now realize, now I get the point of these people. But the real truth is that we can educate ourselves. We can give ourselves, and I do not blame the people in Africa who think like this also, because largely, most part of Africa, people do not have that life where they can depend on on themselves. In the Western world, a lot of the time when people don't have a job but they have paper, they can look up to government, they can look up to the system. People can actually find a way to find a job to do, but in most third world in the world, people depend on each other. So both parties need to understand each other. It's not a thing to be upset with your family members because they're asking you, but at the same time, it's not a thing that you should also be upset because they did not reply you or they could not meet your need. We should all be, praying to God that we will, become people that can, this thing is so funny that sometimes I've worked with people sometimes where I see them saying, oh, my dad sent me money. And that really used to be wonderful. I recall that when my dad was alive and I was out of Nigeria, I was not yet in Europe, but I was out of Nigeria. Sometimes I used to run back to Nigeria from the country I lived in, to just meet with my dad and for my dad to, help me out. Maybe I need to sort something out. And then my dad will find money, even if it means to get a loan, it will sort me out. Now, when my father died, I think the first 1 year after my dad died, it was so beautiful that we were able to get my father's gratuity, we were able to get some of his savings, some of his shares, sold them. And guess what? I went to Europe with a few £1,000s. It feels good that, and then growing up, I realized I've worked with people, a particular guy, he wants to do this, he wants to pay school fee. His mother and father are trying to send him £6,000, and I'll be like, and then his brother will come to England and they don't even consider themselves rich. His brother will come and say, oh, he wants to buy a house. Jimmy want to buy a house. And his brother is saying, okay, I'm going to just give me 4 months. I'll work this out, I'll work that out and help you do this. And then they add money to him. And I see that he's put money together as deposit to buy his first house. And I'll be like, I wish every Africans are like this. And then my uncle will remind me that that was actually how Nigeria was, by the time he got to England in 1959. He said, look, people like your granddad, people like your father will send us money from Nigeria to pay our own school fees here. Because, Naira and, and pounds were nearly at par. Things have really changed so much in Nigeria and in most part of Africa that right now people depend on each other because of the exchange rates. Number 2 dilemma of Africans in the diaspora is integration. Above everything else, integration is really, really the one that you can't blame anyone for. And the real truth is that the age that you enter into your new country of residence now really matters. If you came in when you were young, you're under 10, is almost yours truly. If you came in before you were 18, it's nearly yours truly. Also, depending on your your responsiveness into the system of that country. It's always good when people come in and you can immediately go into primary school, secondary school or so, the peer pressure will make you to adapt, and then you start, at least speaking like them, thinking like them and stuff like that. But when you get in as in your adulthood, in the 20s, it's even possible a little bit. By the time I migrated, what did I not do to integrate? I was weaving my hair. I just want to impress. I just want to do everything. I was, keeping afro at one point. I had to pierce my hair, using earrings. I did all sort of things, as a young boy. And, but I came out of it all. All was in bids to try to adapt to my new environment, and I realized that the environment was not as difficult to accept or to receive me as much as I was putting so much effort into trying to integrate. But for me, the key thing for adaptation was, for me, I traveled to England, but I would be so lucky that within my first 2 months in England, I got a job, but in Ireland. This was just a few months after I'd lost my father. And this family took me in. They were my employers, but I had a boys' quarter, a room and a parlor to myself, and had my kitchen inside of my sitting room, But they realized that I was just almost like a spoiled child. I can't cook anything. And they will, make the meal and I have to eat with them. But they're pure whites, they're Caucasian. So I had to learn what they eat. I have to think the way they think, how to do a lot of things. Their children. The thing is, I don't know if I can find the picture of Wayne, Shane Cooney. Shane and I were, I was eating their food, but I was bringing what I knew from Africa, wrestling, we call it gidigbo. Myself and Shane, if you can hear this video, I remember the time you and I used to have a big fight on the bed or in the sitting room. We will fight, we will play, we will do. I remember Sarah. Sarah is now in Australia, by the way. She's living a very large life. What a wonderful sister of mine is Sarah Cooney. Shout out to you if you ever get to see this video with your family. A family that just loved me so much, that just understood me and took me in, and I was easily integrated into the Irish system because of this Irish parent that I still kept as my parent today, simply because by the time I met them, my father had just died a few months prior to that. And, both husband and wife, Maria Cooney, they were my pastor, they were my employers. They just loved me and they took me in as son to the degree that, part of my youthfulness, the way I left them, I went back into England in an abrupt way after a while, but I went back later, a few years. That's the picture you probably will see, a few years with my wife and children, and to just say, I really was sorry that I had to leave in a hurry. But since then, since the reconciliation, we've been family, we've been like that. And I want to say thank you to them. They helped me to integrate. And by the time I moved back to England, one of the key things for me was to find every means of trying to integrate. So integration is very important for you. Before I move on from that, there is this funny story of myself in Ireland or with the Cooney family, was that I was, I had to eat what they eat. and they eat all kinds of food, all kind of Irish food, and they'll make the meal. I have to endure to eat them. But after a while, my father had taught me when I first left Nigeria, he said you have to learn to integrate and adapt yourself into the culture of any country that you are. And so I did everything possible to always eat what they ate. But guess what? At the initial stage, I will run out of the house and I will go to meet Sister Titi, Sister Sumbo, or what have you, and I will go and have my amala or a bar or, all those kind of things. And by the time I'm coming back in the middle of the night, Pastor Kuni will look at me and say, hey, great, where are you coming from? And he will be like this. He's ready to kick me. Where are you coming from this night? I'm packing. So later, he said, you can't park your car inside. You have to park your car. I have to park outside of the gate, But eventually, I just have to learn to cope with it. Guess what? Some of the food that I ate with the family today are my favorite food today. Actually, my wife will tell you, my favorite food is mashed potato. Mashed potato is my favorite food till tomorrow. I learned that from the Coolies family. I could eat it with egg, I could eat it with butter, I could eat it with all kind of sauce. It's just brilliant. Learn to adapt yourself. You get into a culture that is a tea culture. Try to drink tea. I'm a tea person now. When I'm in Canada, and in America, I'm a Starbucks person, trying to find my mocha. There's no mocha. I just want to have a cappuccino. I'm not so big of a what do you call it? A coffee person. I actually don't like coffee, but I like mocha when I can have some. But I will always go into Starbucks when I'm in North America to just find something to eat. Almost every meeting, when I'm having a meeting outside of an office or my home in North America, in America or in Canada, I will always meet in the Starbucks. Anywhere there's Starbucks. If you're going to have a meeting with me, I want us to meet in the Starbucks. And I will always find something in Starbucks too, because culturally, Canadian people are big into coffee. English people are big into tea. American people also like their coffee. There are some of the things that you do not need to integrate into, like vulgarism. Some environment use a lot of F words and stuff like that. You cannot, because of integration, adopt the negative vibes of the society, but you have to find out what are the valuable culture that you can integrate in yourself, and then go out with them. Join their clubs, mix with them. Let your family also mix with them. Not that all the families that you have and friends that you have are from your country. The people that you, and God bless you, sometimes employ people from other culture, from other countries, from other places, and you will be able to integrate even better. There was, let's go to number 3. Number 3 is your accent. Your accent, or accent as some people will call it, or your diction, your phonetics, your pronunciation, the way you talk. There was this story of the first day I got into England. I'll tell you the story. I have this relative of mine, and we went into her home. And from the very first day as I was coming from Heathrow, this cool guy, if you can find this picture, Benga, took me on to his sister's house, and our son, and Antifolake's son at the time, he will always look at me somewhere. I'll say, oh, Tolu, come here, Tolu, come here. And each time, at first, he would listen to me, and then later I realized he was withdrawing from me. After a while, the guy realized I'm a nice guy, but something is wrong between two of us here. He came up to me and said, Uncle, my name is not Tolu. My name is Tolu Ayenai. I said, what? He said, my name is Tolu Ayenai. I said, no, you mean Tolu Ayeni. I said, if you see Ayenai, do you think you can stay? But later, I begin to realize, they come to me, my cousins, and say, oh, it's great. Do you want a cup of water? I said, well, I don't know what that means. Do you want a cup of water? I said, water? He said, okay, water. The Americans who say water. You want some water? You've got to learn. It's the same thing if you're migrating. When I moved from UK to England. I remember some time ago in Philadelphia, and I really, really mean this. This really actually happened also to me. I was in Philadelphia, and I was trying to find a toilet, a public toilet, where I just realized I couldn't find any eatery or anything around the street where I was in downtown Philadelphia, around the way. So I was trekking, and everybody I keep asking them, where is the toilet? I'm telling you, all the people I met, until the person that understood me did not understand what I was saying, toilet. So until I met a lady, she just quickly recalled that, no, you mean the restroom? I said, oh wow, restroom. Yeah, I know, yeah, read the restroom. He said, I'm gonna tell you, you're from England? I said, yeah, I'm from England. He said, oh yeah, over here we say restroom. He said, so it's like you're saying holiday in England, and in America it's vacation. It's so many other things like that you just have to integrate yourself into simple things, simple culture of the different environment you're coming into, but try to get used to people who are there. Try to listen to news. You see, I personally speak French language. I have never in my entire life taken one class of the French language, but some tell me that mon français est comme mon anglais, je parle bien français. I speak very good French, but the only way that I learned French was when I moved into a French country. I started listening to Radio 5, TV 5, that's Channel 5. In that country, I was almost every day, I was inundating myself with French radio, with French TV, forcing myself to watch football with French commentaries, watch movies in French, and then you realize that you begin to pick the words. So if you get into a country, turn on to the news channel, get addicted to it, get so much into it. The culture of that country, the discussion, the discuss, the prevailing words, vocabularies, grammar of that language, of that diction is going to start getting into you. If you ever move into England, let me teach you one thing. And if you're lucky enough to drive, or if you don't drive, discipline yourself for the first few months. Listen to BBC radios. There's BBC Drama, there's BBC 5, there's BBC 3, there's BBC 1, there's all kinds. When I drive, I happen to have been driving from the first or second week that I got into England over 21 years ago now or so, but I really started listening to radio again. And then from that, you may not be able to change depending on your age, but at least you can understand how they communicate. And then you realize that some of your diction actually will be changing, because words are resonance, and they begin to resonate in the inside of you. So you realize in England, for example, the words are not as in music, there's something that we call falsetto and what have you. There is a little bit more of a falsetto, the way the American speaks, and it's just like what I've just said in Americans is almost like your music in Americans, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like a rhyme, but in England, it's like the Queen's English. They'll tell you, do you know what I'm talking about? Talking is not talking. Do you see what I'm talking about? And it's very clear. It's clear that the Queen actually wants us to make a call. I might not be able to do it well, but it's a little bit better than my Nigerian accent that said the Queen said that we must. You understand? So you can make a little bit of this adaptation in your dictions, in your phonetics, and you can learn them and then be able to. They will increase your opportunity to get a job, because people can see that you've made effort, that you can communicate. Now, there's only one condition where this does not matter, and I'll tell you where. Be successful on your own. Adaptation will not be a big deal. Do you know why? Money does not have accent. Money does not have accent. Money does not have diction. You make your money. You would talk like an Indian man. You say, I want a butter to what the car. But you got all the money in your bank, and you got the people around to move around. You can talk anyhow, and you can shake your head anyhow. They're going to listen to what you're saying. They will listen to you because you've got your money. Roman Abramovich is from Russia. He doesn't have to speak like an Englishman. He's got all the money to buy all the assets and dictions that he wants in this world. The same thing, if you make all your money, you can be on your space. Your money will be your diction. Your money will be your accent. Money does not have accent. Money does not have diction. So make money on your own and you just realize that you make a way. If not, you've got to be able to work on your accent and work on your diction. Number 4. Home situation. The home situation of most Africans is always a dilemma. I'll talk, for example, for 2 countries in Africa. You see, Ivorians naturally don't travel. I lived in Ivory Coast for about 5 years of my life, and I love that country so much. Peace, serenity, good food, great culture, fantastic people. But when you meet Ivorians in the diaspora, it is largely in France. But after the coup of 1999, Ivorians now begin to travel a lot more because the country became unsettled. Now, each time that I meet Ivorians abroad, you cannot go 2 minutes into conversation. They're talking to you about, the situation at home. Because at the time, from that 1999, from the time you have President Gueye, and actually, and I'm saying this, I never knew that this person would become a president, but for somehow, in Ivory Coast at some point, I was like a celebrity. I was a music director of a big church. I was on TV and stuff like that. So I used to play music sometimes with other musicians for this man. He will have a fellowship and he will be in the fellowship in a place, in an area called Cocody, and he will be there only for me to travel. And eventually this man had become the president. I'm talking about President Gbagbo, Laurent Gbagbo. But it's the man that I know, I'd never even envisaged that he was going to be the president of the country. We worship together, we sing together. He used to like piano and stuff like that. But he eventually became the president of the country. But during his time, you have the problem of the coup, the Gueye issue, the Alassane Ouattara issue. The President Alassane Ouattara is right there now. The country is still a bit unstable. And you realize that people who left that country, their mind will always be about the situation. It was really painful for me when I went back into Ivory Coast, and I realized at some point a lot of things were destroyed. Thank God that a lot of the cities and a lot of the places have been rebuilt now, but it was really appalling to see the impact of the war on, for what I consider, for me, Abidjan is the most beautiful African city, maybe followed by Cape Town in South Africa. But Abidjan was so beautiful. It's like you're living in Europe, but it was destroyed. We've got to trust, God to help us to make our situation in Africa better, because a lot of Africans in the diaspora, particularly the second nation, Nigerians, it's very hard for you to see a Nigerian who have their minds taken away from Nigeria, particularly if they were born there and they migrated in their adulthood. Now, I have children who have only been to Nigeria a couple of times, but I realized that the more children usually get older, after a while, they too will catch that syndrome. Invariably, they do not know, but Nigeria will begin to matter to them. Their home country begin to matter to them, because they would have lived most of their life trying to be like the other people, trying to, to be like, but no matter how much you try, if the nation is not your origin, you are not really of that country. No matter more, you can be the president of the country, but no matter what it is, which leads me to my 5th point, which is the problem of marginalization. Now, most people who migrate into a country are the minority in that country because of the prevailing people in that country. So I'll give you an example. There is no amount of Nigerians that move into America. Nigerians are still minority in America. There's no amount of Nigerians that move into England. Nigerians in England are still minority. And there is this thing, either knowingly or unknowingly, the minority are usually marginalized. Politically, sometimes not intentionally, but a lot of people face marginalization. So you see someone have advertised for a job, unless you're exceptionally good. That's one of the reasons why I love America. I love England. In England, particularly in London. If you know your stuff, where you come from does not really matter. The issue of race is not a big deal. You come in with your expertise, they see your CV, they actually like the multicultural. London is extremely diverse. Paris is extremely diverse. New York is extremely diverse. LA is extremely diverse. Toronto is extremely diverse. There are big cities around the world where people are actually happy that you showed up through the door and you are not from the majority. But in all the cases, you are just marginalized. Once you show up and you're showing up with your Nigerian attitude, you're showing up with your Congolese attitude. Some Congolese ones, they come in with the color of their suit, tie, shoe, where I can tell this is a Congolese. On le connaît, on le bien connaît. You know, it's just one of those things. But you've got to understand that you'll face the issue of marginalization. Mentally, manage it. It's not your country. Your parents didn't found that country. Don't try to say we are all for you. Carrying placard, we're going to show them. No, it's not your father's country. You got to understand that it's a privilege to be there. Guess what? My name is Abraham Great, and all I'm doing is just trying to connect the dots. Give me your comment. Let me know what you think, if any of this has applied to you before, or any more video you would like me to do, or subject topic that you would like me to touch. And I would like you to follow me on Twitter. You know, my handle on Twitter is Abraham Great, at Abraham Great. On Instagram, I am Abraham Great, at I am Abraham Great. And on Facebook, find me Abraham Great, Facebook/Abraham Great. Guess what? Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so, and please do so now. It is working.